this is a subject that I feel pretty passionate about. There was a guy, he's very well known in the jiu-jitsu community for his blogs and stuff like that, and he breaks down videos and things, and he posted this huge thing basically countering, I think, every point Rickson had made. Like, it was like, I disagree for this reason, and he had a well-articulated argument, and he was coming from a good place. He wasn't just talking trash just because he, wanted to cut Rickson down. Like, he really felt that way and had a different opinion. And I think some of his points were valid. And he brought up Galvão and one of Galvão's competitors, and he said, you don't think this guy can wreck somebody in the streets? Like, you don't think that all of his gi training is going to, like, work in the street? And I do think that guy could probably wreck most people in the streets. But you end up training bad habits. You go for armbar setups and this and that, reliant on the gi, and your face is exposed, and you could get pounded at any time. So, he brought up Ronda Rousey, too. He said, Ronda, she trained in the gi for judo, for sport, not for fighting. And look at her. She's in the, she's just demolishing women. So it obviously does translate over. But who's to say Ronda wouldn't even be more devastating? Let's say if she just trained no-gi judo for a long time, or, just trained for fighting her whole career. Like, maybe, I don't know, because it's all theoretical, but maybe she would be at a higher level than she is, if that's possible. But my thing is any subject you study in life, period, you need to evaluate any and all of the information that you're taking in from how do I want to apply this. My friend Matt Kirtley, a mutual friend, I talked to him about it, and this was a couple years ago, so it's not necessarily based on this Rickson episode, but he goes, I don't go out and drink. I'm married. I like being on the internet. I like to geek out on jiu-jitsu. I don't have a reason to learn self-defense. I just want to learn sports stuff. But that was his reason for getting into jiu-jitsu, as like a pastime, as a hobby, and then he just fell in love with it and became passionate. So I can't say that it's wrong for him to not learn self-defense. Me, the reason I got into jiu-jitsu was to learn how to defend myself. That's why I'm here. I want to learn how to fight. I want to learn how to defend myself. So anything that I study in the jiu-jitsu world, I'm always having that evaluation going on. Do I want to use this and incorporate it? Because will it work in these situations or not? And Henry Akins, he gave me his like 3 criteria, and I decided to adopt that idea. And it was, does it first and foremost, always and only, will it work in a self-defense situation? Secondly, will it work gi? And will it work no gi? So if it's only exclusive to one thing, except for maybe a couple of chokes, but that's the only type of jiu-jitsu he wants to do, because he wants to learn and teach people how to defend themselves. And he doesn't necessarily want to train competitors. He would be, I think, just as happy as having a world-class competitors, placing medals and this and that. To the same degree, I think him and Dave Kama, and I think Rickson feels the same way, he would be just as happy to have a housewife who's learning to defend herself and this and that. He's not in it to teach people to win competitions. He wants to teach people how to defend themselves. So I think that's the place he's coming from, and Dave Kama for sure feels that way. And every class it's going to be one type of self-defense thing, and I am bored of them, but I'm realizing that I have a lot of holes in it, and against a fully resistant guy, I need to like tighten things up. So it's like self-defense, probably a takedown or two, and then something on the ground. So it's kind of like every class we sort of incorporate each aspect of it. But anyway, I'm kind of passionate about this debate at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good debate, and I don't think there's any one right answer. Yeah. And just because I don't spend much of my time focusing on self-defense, I'm not saying that that's the only way to go. AJ, what's your point of view?
I think it's about, like, as an instructor, for me, my school, I care about the students' goals. So there are people that want to train for self-defense, and I have guys that are competitors. But as a gym, I structure self-defense into the curriculum. I think jiu-jitsu as an art has self-defense components in the way you teach and learn. Like, learning how to control another human being is the self-defense aspect of it. I can take you down. I can control you. But I've seen high-level guys who you would think be able to beat somebody. It's different when someone's throwing punches at you and you're like, oh, like you've never had someone punch you. So like Tim Cartmel is really into the self-defense stuff. He's competed a lot. But his whole thing is like, you don't want to be a jiu-jitsu purple belt and get your ass beat in a fight. Like that would be embarrassing. So their blue belt tests, they bring in guys, they put gloves on, and you have to get punched and clinch and close the distance and take the fight down. So you have to use your jiu-jitsu to neutralize a striker. And I think that's important. I think you get bored of, okay, self-defense, oh, the guy grabbed your gi, arm lock. It's like practical stuff. Like I teach, what if somebody Muay Thai clinches you? Things that are probably going to happen if some bro who's trained gets in a fight with you or whatever. I think people get bored of the same old hat stuff. But I think what Hickson showed is a little variation on it. And I think it's important to kind of incorporate, you know, we do a striking thing, how to deal with striking, and then how to deal with clinching and things like that. And then the rest of it, I think you learn from training. So I do think it's important. But if someone comes to me and goes, I want a self-defense only class, it's like, well, you're going to learn self-defense in jiu-jitsu, but I don't believe in self-defense crash courses. Like if you come for women's self-defense for the weekend, we'll teach you how to defend yourself in 6 hours. I think that's whack. Like it takes mat time and training to get reflexes and all that. So if you're not really offering somebody a long-term training thing, I think you're kind of blowing smoke.
Yeah. And when you look back at what traditionally what BJJ self-defense is, it hasn't changed much from Japanese jiu-jitsu. It's done in a kata style.
Exactly.
You look at these books from over 100 years ago, and they're doing the same things. You look at Halo Gracie's book, and there's not a lot of new stuff in there. It's all the
what's
old
the
stuff.
difference between Brazilian jiu-jitsu and Kozen judo? It's the guard. That's it. So if you do the self-defense, it's that old style stuff.
Because it's hard to innovate with those static postures. But another form of self-defense that you kind of alluded to is training jiu-jitsu on the ground with gloves on. And I've done a little bit of that. That is fun.
It is fun. And standing. If they're punching you, you got to cover, close the distance, because that's the fight.
Yep.
And if you've never done that, it's different. You'll see purple belts just getting lit up. Like we do it on our tests.
Right. And
so I got that from Tim.
And you learn real quick what positions aren't good to hang out in. Deep half guard, probably you don't want to hang out there for too long.
And even your takedowns. Are you going to shoot a double on the street? Are you going to split your kneecap on the street? How do you do a double leg on the street? All of that is different off the mat, and someone's punching you. And if you don't do that ever, you could be a bad tournament fighter and maybe get the crap kicked out of you in a street fight.
Yeah. My question was, you said that the reason that you started jiu-jitsu was to learn self-defense, right? What was the reason you started learning jiu-jitsu?
I watched too much pro wrestling and martial arts movies. I just wanted to do it. I never got picked on.
Did you know it was jiu-jitsu, or did you just happen to go there?
No, I didn't. I wanted to do Jeet Kune Do, and then they had jiu-jitsu, and I was like, jiu-jitsu is stupid. And then I tried it, and I was like, oh, I really like this.
Did you have any idea what jiu-jitsu was?
I knew what it was, but I didn't think it was worthwhile. I thought if you wanted to learn how to fight, you need to learn to punch someone in the face.
You didn't think what it was before you went there?
What's that?
You didn't think it was what it was before you went there?
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't get it. I saw the UFCs, but I didn't understand what grappling really was like. And I don't know. When I stepped on the mat and did it, it felt like it was in my DNA. Like it was just like, oh, I like this a lot. Like, so.
And did you start off with a self-defense class?
No, I did like Muay Thai, and I did.
In your first jiu-jitsu class?
I did it right off the bat. I did it the first week. I signed up at OC Kickboxing, and they had Muay Thai, Filipino martial arts, and jiu-jitsu. So I did kickboxing, which is what I went there for. And then the next day I tried jiu-jitsu. And then ultimately that just kind of took over.
Describe how your first jiu-jitsu class went.
I just had a blast. Like I felt right when I got on the mat, it wasn't like overwhelming, or the guys there were tough, and I got tapped out a bunch, and it was just kind of like, this is totally crazy. I didn't go in there thinking like, oh, these guys are wimps and I'm going to beat them up. But it was just, I was like, I don't really know. Do
you remember what the techniques were that you first learned?
No, I know. I think guillotine choke, something like that from the guard.
So more of a grappling.
It was stuff on the ground, all on the ground. No stand-up, no self-defense. It was sports stuff.
It was definitely, it was a GB curriculum, so there would have been some stand-up, some self-defense, and then some groundwork.
Your first jiu-jitsu class?
Yeah.
What about yours?
I did. The only reason that I got into jiu-jitsu, I had no idea what jiu-jitsu was. Actually, if wind the clocks back a little bit further, I was at a wrestling camp, and these guys were on the mats, and it was in Minnesota. These guys were on the mats, like, doing all this crazy stuff. I was like, what the heck is that? And the guy's like, it's jiu-jitsu. and we had a goal book. And I was like, all right, well, there's goal number 39, learn jiu-jitsu. I had no idea what it was. I thought it was cool. Oh, that's cool. And it just went out of my head. Just still didn't really realize what it was. And I had a buddy of mine that fought in an MMA fight when I was in my first year in college. And he was training for the MMA fight. We were just wrestling, just punching. And, I had already thought this guy was a knucklehead, so I even thought more after the fact that we were going to the cage fight to put him in the cage and he was going to fight somebody. And when we got to the show, the promoter came to him and he's like, yeah, one of our guys didn't show up, and he's at this weight. And he kind of looked at me and he's like, you want to fight? And I was like, why not? So I did my first amateur fight. I was most nervous I'd ever been in my life, and don't even get that nervous when I skydive. My whole body was white. And I remember going in there, just ducking a few punches, taking the guy down, and taking his back. And the fight ended with me in position to get a rear naked choke, but I had no idea what a rear naked choke was. Like, you just see me go like this, and I didn't even choke him. I was just like like that. And I was like, yeah, holding his neck, and the guy's like this, tap, tap, tap. It was an amateur fight, to remind you. And I called my dad, and I was like, yeah, he's like, there's a jiu-jitsu school and right next to our house. And I was like, I don't know what jiu-jitsu is, but it sounds cool. So he took me there. That's where I met Eduardo. He's like, bring the wrestler to me, and kind of laughed, make him the world champ, my dad said, and the rest is history. But I just remember I had no idea what it was. I just was going off of the word of mouth of my dad, and that it would be good for me. So I know that you did it because it was a self-defense desire. You did it because you had the impressions of the grappling community and martial arts and UFC, and you're just a martial arts advocate. Probably wanted to expand your knowledge a little bit, a lot. Yeah. So, and I think when I think about what the topic is here, is we're all discussing, the self-defense aspect. I didn't go in for it just from self-defense. I came at it from a wrestling standpoint. But I think as I've started teaching now and been teaching for the last couple of years, I realize what connects with people. And it's the self-defense. It's the people that don't actually know what it is.
People aren't coming asking how to berimbolo?
Yeah.
Flying omoplatas.
Yeah, I mean, with exceptions of I think there's scenarios. I think there's certain things that people are looking for. Like you said, you try to depict what their goals are initially. But, when we cater to women and to children, they want self-defense, whether they think they do or they don't. And that's one of the most, what I've seen in my experience is what brings those people from the self-defense aspect to getting them to become jiu-jitsu fanatics. And that's their kind of their, when in college we call it, what is the term?
Bait and switch?
No, your
what college did you go to?
Your curriculum beforehand.
General education.
Yeah, your Gen Ed.
Yeah,
your GEs. And I feel like it's such a good transitional stage for people that start this to go into becoming jiu-jitsu fanatics and then taking the next step in competing. Do we do any self-defense, like that in the ones that you went over with Hickson in a jiu-jitsu match? Not at all. But you know what? Right. It gets them to the point where they're like, oh, I want to expand my knowledge a little bit. And I found that, from teaching, that this is what kind of gets their clock moving. And they're talking about, oh, dude, I just started jiu-jitsu classes the other day. Wait, what? Dude, jiu-jitsu, bro. I don't know what that is. Dude, you got to go.
Right.
And they're so amped up and they're so pumped about it that they want to tell their friends. And, for me, I had no idea what jiu-jitsu was, and that's how I was. I was wrestling background. I was this, Midwest wrestler that came in and just was getting triangled and trying to get the guy off my freaking head, and I was slamming him all around the mat, Rich Travis. And, it opened my eyes to something that was far beyond what I could have even imagined. I even think that at that point that I started the class that I would be one day sitting in some sort of a round table talking about jiu-jitsu with three other black belts.
It's funny. It's not like you two different entries, but for the same way. It's kind of like, well, what is jiu-jitsu like? And you sort of stumbled into it. But that's the thing about it, is that you can never stop learning, and it keeps your mind and body engaged. And it's something I plan on doing for the rest of my life, but it's awesome. You know? Yeah.
I think that the people that want to learn jiu-jitsu, I think the first thing that they should do is start with self-defense, because when we do a private lesson, when I have a kid that doesn't know what jiu-jitsu is, or I have a student that comes in, what's the first thing I do? I put them on the mat. I mount on top of them and say, okay, get out.
Yeah.
Sure.
What are you going to do?
That was my first class, Peter Sauer.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
Well,
Maybe I'm a mean guy, I'm going to punch you. And I went ballistic bananas, white belt, psycho.
As opposed to a guy that's a wrestler, okay, you put him in, what are you going to do? Okay, he's going to know a little bit more.
Sure.
And he wants to learn some grappling. He's seen some, that's the guy that you can take in a different, avenue. But to expand the community, much larger, I think the best avenue is the self-defense.
Well, and I think with what you're saying, like, you have a buddy that said, I don't need to learn it because of this, this, and this. But those reasons aren't going to keep you out of a fight. Like, I don't drink either, and I'm married, but you could just be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you don't want to pick up self-defense after being a victim.
Or you could get in a fight with your wife.
And my wife.
That's that whole Jeet Kune Do story. Or not Jeet Kune Do, but there was that not jiu-jitsu. Oh, I'm having a brain freeze here. But this woman developed a martial art to beat the crap out of her husband because he was abusive. What is it? It's the one that
Lorena
Bruce Lee
Bobbitt?
No, not that bad.
Oh, you're talking about Wing Chun.
Wing Chun, yeah. And Lorena Bobbitt, that would be after the fact. It's like too late at that point.
She was a master.
Yeah, she won in that equation. But that's I meet people, sadly, that's something happened to me.
Yeah.
And it's just like, when you're teaching somebody that, it's just like, damn it, like that sucks.
What about the people that train in martial arts, as a kid? They're taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, blah, 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 blah. And they do all these things. And then they get in a cage, and then they get into a street fight. And it just goes out the window. Why?
Well, that's my point. Yeah, I don't think they have that. I think if you've never been hit in the face, and when someone hits you, it's like, oh my God, like it's hard not to freak out.
I think it was Carlos Gracie Jr. that said each punch knocks you down a belt level.
Hell yeah,
So
for
5
sure.
punches
So if
and
you're
you're
not
even a white belt
if you
anymore.
don't take anything from boxing or like covering and pivot, like head movement, if you don't incorporate, that's not a part of jiu-jitsu. Let's be honest. I think some people.
See, I disagree with you 100% on that.
It's not part of someone's curriculum. Like
disagree
it
with
should
you.
be. It's
Yeah.
part of self-defense. But if you look at it's Japanese jiu-jitsu would have that because they have striking, but Brazilian jiu-jitsu in the States is almost all competitor based, and that's what Hickson's saying.
Yeah.
But if your instructor's never boxed before or never done Muay Thai, I bet if they're a jiu-jitsu black belt, they probably don't know how to cover punches very well.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be that way.
No, it
but I
shouldn't.
think it is.
But like that old school, like knee, I don't know if you guys ever trained that old school knee stomp for entry for a clinch.
Yeah.
Have you trained it?
I did it at the Hickson seminar.
Okay. Yeah. Before that, other than
No.
with Hickson. Okay. Had you?
Yeah.
Okay.
At GB they teach
At
that.
Baja. Okay. Yeah, because I mean that's the thing. I also disagree with people. It's like you had Hoist Gracie on one extreme of just kind of. He looks lethargic. He he's very slow and he does his thing and he's not really hurting people. And then you got Carlson Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and this is just from like those old school guys are the most aggressive beasts, in the Jiu-Jitsu world. They're just like attack and the punching, the knees, the elbow, all that stuff originally was incorporated into Jiu-Jitsu, not necessarily even just for the MMA fighters, but like that's what you learned. And I remember a class with Hickson. He was showing from the guard how to get up and then knee the guy in the face because it's this perfect setup. But for him, that was just that's normal jiu-jitsu,
But jiu-jitsu is huge, and there's a lot of guys that practice it. Some guys have been doing it even in Brazil without any influence from the Gracies at all.
Totally.
And there's guys that do it in Japan. There's guys that do it all around the world, and they might call it jiu-jitsu, they might not. But let's stick to things that are called Brazilian jiu-jitsu or Gracie jiu-jitsu. There are some guys that train very much on the self-defense side, every single class. There's some guys on the other extreme that totally disregard the self-defense and just focus on sport, and they might develop awesome sport competitors, both developing great athletes. Should we say that the sport guys are doing it wrong and that they're not doing the complete
But
art?
I mean, who's to say that about anything? I don't.
Yeah, I don't-
You can get off your high horse and.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't think there is a wrong way to train based on what is it that you want to accomplish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they have the innovators that are developing these techniques that, are you considering that jiu-jitsu anymore?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't care about the name. I like grappling. So to me, it's all grappling, whether it's wrestling, sambo, catch wrestling. I'm going to take anything from anywhere and I'm not like a only do Gracie jiu-jitsu guy. I think that's like a diet. Like, I'm on the Atkins diet. Well, what's the difference between that and the paleo diet? Oh, I don't know. It's like, well, who cares? Like, it's a way to sell it, and it's a business model.
Yeah.
Not that people didn't innovate or do things, but people have been grappling since we've had thumbs. So
Yeah, and the Gracies have gotten a lot from sambo and from wrestling and from boxing.
That's what I'm saying.
also.
You said striking is a part of the thing. Is that really a part of the art, or was that borrowed? Like, when you look at people who do karate and you're watching a karate class, taekwondo class, and they're doing clinching, it's like, that's not from taekwondo.
Mm-hmm.
You can say it is, but now things are so blended. Who's to say when something was borrowed?
I guess there's probably, in my opinion, there's only one way to answer that question. But you had, the guy who invented judo, Jigoro Kano. Right. He decided what was judo. He's the founder. He's the one who invented it.
Sure.
So he did borrow from Aikijitsu, from standard Japanese jiu-jitsu, from all these different things. But he put together a curriculum that he formalized and then he developed, and that really, if you wanted to say what is judo, that should be the definition of it.
But things evolve, so the sport has changed, and it's like saying if a car isn't the first model of car that came out, then Ferraris aren't cars; they're spaceships. Like, it's when you get caught up in names and genres, it's like it's just a way for us to identify, so you can pass it on. Or
it's funny because I do the same thing with when I'm coaching wrestling. They're like, the kids will ask me, "What's that move called?" I don't know, wrestling.
Well, even funk wrestling is that wrestling? I bet you get purists to be like, "This is ridiculous."
What do you call it? Wrestling.
Right.
Sure.
And there's schools that I've gone to where they're really good at some certain subset, and they might be shocked that I don't know this move that they're learning in the first month of school.
Exactly.
Then you go over to Gokor's school, for example, just to throw someone's name. They heel hook on day one,
Right?
And they're shocked that we don't train heel hooks, and then but then they might come over to GB and they'll say like, "Wow, I can't believe this guard pass you guys do. I've never learned that." And so
it's a culture.
It's a culture.
It's like religion or anything else. You're gonna have people that are orthodox and they're like, we have the right way of doing it.
Right.
This is the book. The Gracie book says this is how you pass the guard, and it's like, okay, fine, but things change. So,
and that's what's awesome about it.
I think
can
so
imagine
too.
if everybody's doing the exact same thing. How boring would it be?
I encourage everybody that is training, and that's what I was talking about. The guy that just trains his whole life and then he gets in a fight and it just goes out the window. Is when they take it to the next level and they compete with it. So so you're like you said, that's what's the great thing about it. It's okay. So we're practicing all these heel hooks, given the federation. Obviously, we're practicing all these techniques. You're practicing all this. Then put you in a mat with somebody that you don't even know.
right.
And that's what jiu-jitsu offers, and I think that's one of the great things that allows. So, say for the guy that's been training his whole life, probably one of the reasons why is because he's never competed, or he's never felt that
Pressure.
That they say two things. The biggest adrenaline rush for a person when you fight somebody that you know wants to kill you, or when you're fighting somebody that wants to kill you, like legitimately kill you, and another one involves you and another woman. Those are the two.
Is that what that's called?
The two biggest adrenaline rushes. And I think when people really experience that, all that training is going to present them to be able to start competing. But after that competition, they're going to be a totally different person.
For sure. That's one thing that sport jiu-jitsu offers.
Right.
On the self-defense side, there's no self-defense world champion.
Exactly.
Guys can come in and say, like, I've been in 300 street fights and I've never been knocked out.
Well,
Like,
and I think
how
you
do I
had
know that's
that
true?
problem of traditional martial artists, like, oh, this move will kill someone. Don't ever do it. And it's kind of like, that's what jiu-jitsu's rad. Like, you're brand new off the street. I'm going to show you how to choke someone. You're going to do it to that kid who you don't know. And then I'm going to make you fight each other in class.
Right.
And it's like, that's a mini tournament. Then it's a classroom sparring sessions like that. It's scary. But then the tournament is way different. It feels way different. And it's like you're saying, it's that real life component built in a safe way.
Yep.
Yeah, the number one reason why people don't compete is because of their nerves. Whether they say they're hurt or whatever it is, their excuses they make, it all stems back to why they don't.
It's terrible.
Is because of nerves, because of the feelings that they get pre-tournament.
Yeah.
But is that the same as a fight? Like, if a fight is spontaneous, are you
That's
going to be
difference,
like, I'm going to fight Jake in a month from now, under the bridge.
Right.
Like that happens when you're in like a kid, but
Yeah.
assaults are different. It's
It-
not like
it
I had
emulates it,
to
though.
sweat about the assault for like a month.
It emulates it. I feel
It
like
can.
It's as close as you can
It's
get.
the only
I
way
think
that
it's
you
no. I
really
think it's
can,
great
yeah.
for sure. I just always think you need to be thinking when you're doing your sport techniques. Think about the street stuff, or if your instructor doesn't point out like this is a really good sport technique, not good for the street, whatever. It should be on the radar, and it doesn't have to be all you do because you have your own personal goals.
Yeah, just stop going all day, and then you can start talking about MMA guys that train only in the no-gi, and they're, you know,
Getting black belts.
yeah.
And you talk about weapons. You know, there's so many things. But just to kind of wrap this topic up, I would say, however good you are at self-defense, don't think that you're invincible in a street fight. You know, you never
Right.
know what those guys are gonna do, how many guys there are, what they're holding, what weapons they have, all that stuff.
And
So-
does any one martial art prepare you for that? Multiple opponents, weapon, all the things that can really happen.
They should just start Hicks should just start an organization where he just picks, like you say, you want to fight in his organization, and then he brings this just random guy that you don't even know, and he just throws the kitchen sink at you.
About that.
I've actually seen, I think Henry and Huron teaching seminars where the guys are rolling and he'll walk by and give them a plastic knife. So let's say we're grappling. You don't know that I just picked up this
Yeah.
knife and all of a sudden you have to deal with it.
Well, and
So
that in certain techniques, like if I have you in a head and arm position, your other arm is free to do whatever. Is that a great self-defense position? Because if it's me, I'm gonna pull out a knife and stab you. Frankly, if you took me down, put me in a head and arm, I'm gonna stab you because it's like that just shouldn't happen. I don't know.
Yeah. It's funny, actually. Oh, sorry. I was just going to comment. When I first started jiu-jitsu and I was learning how to break people's arms and, like, blow their knees out and stuff like that, I was like, I don't want to do that to another person. But I'm at the point now, the mindset now, if I get in an altercation on the street
They're
and
asking
it's
for
going
it.
to that, I will easily break your
Right.
arm. You're going to have a broken, like, not a problem. I will wreck you.
Right.
Well, it's
if
like
I can.
you're not gonna just go fight. No, you would have to make me fight you, and in that scenario, it's not gonna go well. Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna think about it like I have to kill you because I will not fight anybody, and I'll walk away. I've even had dudes hit me like some pit beef at a metal show. Some kid jumped on me and punched me in the head. And it's like I didn't do anything. I didn't have to. So
Yeah.
it's like if you don't, the difference in street fighting that I don't know. What's the difference between a street fight and self-defense? I'm not going to street fight somebody. That's like an MMA fight in the street. Like, oh, some guy called me a dick. I'm going to punch him. You put up your dukes. It's like, I'm going to leave. But a self-defense is someone attacking
Yeah.
you. That's different.
I did have an altercation last year at a bar. This guy, he I think, I don't know if it was just drunk or if it was just, he just got enraged.
Nice hair, man.
Yeah. It's like,
That's
"Whoa."
the most. I hate your glasses.
Yeah. I was wearing these glasses
No,
actually.
they
yeah.
enrage people.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what
no,
it is.
it definitely angers them. But no, I was at the bar. I started talking to this girl, and then about 5 minutes in the conversation, she's like, "I'm married." I was like, "Okay, no problem. Can't, blame
Where's
me
your
for."
ring?
I didn't even look. I was just there with friends in a relaxed environment. Anyway, go out, have another beer, play some pool, come back, and then order another drink. She's right there. I was like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And she goes, "Oh, this is my husband." I was like, "Hey, dude," and he crazy eyes. "That's my wife." And he comes over and he just assaults me. And
You
I
don't
was
say,
saying,
hey, dude, to me in front of my wife.
and nobody talks to me like that.
You should be like, man, congratulations.
Yeah, no, I was like, "Hey, I met. Nice to meet you." And then he just came around and just attacked me.
Your arm.
You're the guy. You're the guy.
That was me.
Did you choke him
No,
out?
no, you say to him.
I put him down.
This is my husband. Oh, you're the guy.
Put him down and take his wife.
No, I let him
Carry
go.
her over your shoulders.
Do you want to know what sucks? I actually feel so bad for that guy because here he is in
You
his
shouldn't
mind.
disclose this. This is going to be on the internet. He
I
might
didn't-
see it, and now you're going to get sued.
Oh,
What's the
gosh.
statute of limitations on putting somebody down in a bar?
It was actually self-defense, and
Okay.
I'm sure that there was video of him
Didn't tell us.
grabbing my neck.
Tell us.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, I put him down, but I actually just felt really bad for this guy because in his mind, he was, like there's a younger guy hitting on his wife, and I'm gonna go, defend my honor or whatever, and then
You crushed that dude's soul.
it was just
Just slip your business card in his.
You should have just let him
Call
beat
me
you
on
up a
TT,
little
I'd do
bit.
that.
Shortly thereafter, they filed a divorce.
Yeah. He's on Skid Row now.
She's looking for a
man.
jiu-jitsu black belt.
I have a good story for you guys. It's probably it's a good ending of the self defense. My first impression, and I wanted to tell this while you guys were talking about Hickson, is my first impression of Hickson was pretty funny. I was at a tournament, and people were coming up to him and taking pictures. Some dude walked up with a black belt, No idea. Hickson had no idea who he was, and was like, "Oh man, can you sign can you sign the black belt?" He made this like pause, like just, and he takes his hand. Get the F out of here! I don't even know you. You're gonna make me sign your black belt? I don't know if you're a black belt. If I sign, I'm gonna give you a black belt, and you're gonna walk around. Oh, Hickson gave me this black belt. It was just, that was my first impression of Hickson.
That's awesome.
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious.
And it's true. He shouldn't sign
Yeah,
it.
no,
Yeah.
It's not. He's not on American Idol. It's. I don't know. That's weird.
Maybe,
Yeah.
that's fine, but a belt,
I
different
don't.
story.
I'm not. You're not signing
But
it.
so you maybe you think like, okay, so we were talking about kind of his personality in terms of things like that. So you think maybe he would be like, no man, I'm not gonna sign your black belt, or like, nah, I'm not gonna sign your black belt, but I'll sign your shirt or I'll sign your tet. And the guy's like slams the freaking black belt and is like, get the F out of here.
It's about the lineage, man.
Yeah.
You can't. That's serious business.
Yeah.
And Brazilians are like that. It's like, oh, hey, buddy. But if you challenge them in a way they don't like, it's like, you are going to fight them. You better be ready for a switch to go. Because it's like all the instructors I've ever trained that were like that. They're so friendly. But if the fight is going to happen, it's not going to be like, here, someone's going to push you and shove you for like 20 minutes. It's going to be a lot quicker than that. Like that. So that's awesome.
And then as the guy started to walk away, he started mumbling things under his breath. It's just so funny. It's like a scene from a movie.
God.
My last thought on the jiu-jitsu topic, jiu-jitsu versus self-defense versus sport jiu-jitsu topic, is that jiu-jitsu is a huge art. There's so much to learn. If you're enjoying it, do it, and
Just train.
Just train. Just
Yeah,
have
just
fun.
train, yeah.
But just don't stop. Keep training regularly. Copa Podio is in the business of putting on an event. It's not thousands of competitors, but they're trying to get a big audience. So obviously his point, the president's point, is to make it fun to watch.
Things like Metamoris and the one coming up is going to have a bigger fan base of people that aren't going to train.